Hello, my name is Troy Zebadua, and here's my You're the Professor assignment through chapters 14, 15, and 16 of the Psychological Dynamics of Sports and Exercise. To start with chapter 14, or Social Influences. To summarize, social influences are apparent in sports and exercise that later emerge as social facilitation to later evolve into multifaceted approaches. And a little overview of the terms are social facilitation, observational learning, and socializing agents. And finally, social support. Social facilitation is the influence of the presence of others on performance, including cohesion and audience. Um, while one of the oldest research topics in social psychology, the foundation of social facilitation was performance is better around others, but is not necessarily true in every scenario. Research on social facilitation in sports and exercise includes a review chapter from Martin Guinness and Mack 2012. Martin Guinness and Mack identified people tended to exercise harder in the presence of others. However, Felt and colleagues identified the Kohler effect, or when weaker individuals in a group expend more effort than when being alone, suggesting a present superior partner improves persistence on an exercise task. Continued research with aerobic exercises by Irwin and colleagues identified that performance was best in the conjunctive condition and worse in the individual condition, while having a virtual partner can improve performance, which leads into home advantage, which is a phenomenon related to social facilitation with unclear evidence that the home audience provides support and facilitates performance. Home advantage still exists while descriptive in how the advantage is consistent in some sports while not others. An integrated approach is to understand that advantage is still needed. Social reinforcement in sports and exercise naturally followed with research of social influences in sports and exercise. Social reinforcement has little direct positive effect on sports and exercise performance, and the relationship has proved positive in other avenues. Social reinforcement has been beneficial to in behaviors and other aspects, sports and exercise. Now, with a social cognitive theory, which is about how behaviors differ between different social settings. The person in the situation constantly influence each other and has four processes. Two, attention and retention, related learning or acquisition of skills. And then the other two, motor reproduction and motivation, to determine actual performance of the acquired skill. And then recent observational learning research shows that observational learning affects skill acquisition, performance, and two psychological factors related to performance. In watching either mastery or coping models, or mastery being like the set example of how to do something, and coping is someone trying or attempting to do something, related to sports in this case, shown effects of observational learning, improving satisfaction and motivation, and psychological factors. Performance can improve with observing models who are perceived as similar to the learner. I mentioned modeling effects include self as model and socializing agents. Self as model are both self-observation and self-modeling, which are forms of observational learning commonly like on video or like videotaped and rewatching from ourselves, or our own performances. And socializing agents include social influences that varied in relationship, leaderships, and motivational climates. And then other mentioned socializing agents are firstly parents, which can positively influence their child's continued participation in physical activity, um, children's perception of concepts. However, the inverse is definitely possible with over controlling or pushy parents. Um, Siblings are shown to be a stronger influence than parents in adolescence while having a paradoxical nature, uh, and at the same time understudied. Uh, Peer relationships have revealed both beneficial and harmful effects, and fostering positive effects includes peers modeling, um, team building exercises, etc. Coaches and teachers, relational coaching is rich in research and includes concepts such as relational coaching, involving a relationship between a coach and an athlete that gives rise to performance and satisfaction between both parties, where in general higher coach athlete relationship quality for both parties lead to greater relationship satisfaction as a whole. Another climate for coaches and teachers include caring climates, which provide an inviting, safe, and supportive environment. A caring environment for youth sports has demonstrated a more positive relationship with the coach, greater sports enjoyment, and commitment. Now, social support, which refers to the support of others, which has more specific definitions to narrow down for research and practice. Um, Types of social support include tangible, informational, and emotional support. And to start, tangible support or instrumental support involves tangible or direct assistance. Uh, Informational support is giving directions, tidbit of advice, and other uh, tips or valuable information. And emotional support consists of expressing encouragement, empathy, or concern. While there was further research with more forms of social support, such as companionship, support, and validation by both Willis and Shinar 2000. Um, Meanwhile, another 8 forms of social support for injured athletes by Rosenfield and Richmond were emerging, which were listening support, emotional challenges, task appreciation, reality confirmation, tangible assistance, and personal assistance. Measures of social support has 2 commonly used measures in psychology: the social support questions, SSQ, and social provision scale, SPS. These tests, including the social support survey, or the triple S, which have been used in studies with athletes, all 3 of them. Um, in research on social support, incorporates considerable research from health psychology and related to health promotion. Social support was positively associated with the physical activity of adolescents, from both Mandonga and colleagues, 2014. Exercise leaders play important roles as social support for physical activity. Social support is a key component of physical activity programs for groups in varied contexts. Social support is a key coping resource in reducing injury risk and stress related to injury response and recovery. Now, chapter 15 with aggression and social development, which to summarize, aggression is well defined, while research is still blossoming on its particular effects in sports and exercise, and also in relation to social development. An overview of the terms is: what is aggression, the theories of aggression, aggression on sports, and positive social development through physical activity. To start, what is aggression? Uh, Aggression refers to the wide range of behaviors and solely aminosity for individual, and not solely aminosity for another individual. Aggression is normally associated and defined as a behavior that is intended to harm another person who does not want to be harmed. Um, since aggression is not solely animosity for another individual, it's more beneficial to characterize and categorize aggression. So, therefore, aggression is a behavior. It is not an attitude, emotion, or motive, and it is definitely intentional and not accidental. Additionally, there are definite categorizations of aggression, which I mentioned before, which is hostile aggression and instrumental aggression. Hostile aggression is a behavior performed to cause harm and done with anger. And instrumental aggression is intentionally harmful behavior used for non-aggressive goals, which I like the example they use in the book with hockey players shoving each other to get the puck. Not exactly malicious in mind, but aggressive movements nonetheless. Um, Now, theories of aggression, starting with instinct theories, which lack research but propose that aggressiveness is an innate characteristic stemming from evolution. Then, frustration aggression drive theory has more credibility within psychology that is based on the study by Dollard and colleagues, 1939. Um, And then, based on Dollard and colleagues' 1939, aggression always stems from frustration. And frustration comes from a person being blocked or built up, pent up frustration from being blocked from achieving a goal. Versus aversive stimulation theory continues on frustration aggression theory, but incorporates frustration as readiness for aggressive behavior. Social learning theories acknowledges aggression as a learned social behavior through direct reinforcement and observational learning. Aggression in sports, well, evidence does not support sports as a catharsis for aggression, and rather exercise leads to increased arousal and is definitely related to aggression. And reasons for aggression are wide ranging, with factors such as arousal and frustration, cultural systems of the game, and individual difference factors, and others with established empathy aggression relationships. Research on the consequences of hostile aggression may lead to anger and arousal that affects attention and performance. Psychological skills to reduce regression include a variety of techniques such as the 3 R's from psychological skill training, PST. First is respond, acknowledge the ignored, repressed emotions. Then second, relax, which is to control the emotional response of these emotions. And then third is lastly, refocus, or you go through the first two steps of R, then you have to go back into the performing in whatever sport. The catalyst for future aggression research is within moral behavior, influenced by developmental and individual influences. Reasons for moral behavior in sports and physical activity are individual and situational factors. The factors include goal orientations and moral disengagement. Higher task orientations are more likely to engage in pro-social behavior, while ego orientations are more likely to participate in antisocial behavior. Bullying is a clear sign of antisocial behavior and categorized as a subcategory of aggression that is intentional, repeated in the abuse of imbalance of power between people. Perceived caring environment is associated with pro-social behavior and empathy, which can reduce antisocial behavior such as bullying. Um, Positive development through physical activity includes teaching personal and social responsibility, um, which involves a TPSR framework that is holistic, self development while youth centered. There are 5 levels: respecting the rights and feelings of others, effort and cooperation, self direction, helping others in leadership, and finally, transferring outside the gym. Positive youth development is, or PYD, is similar to PSR, but PYD is within sports and exercise development in particular, or in specific. The PYD framework includes varieties of interventions for youth to emphasize personal or life skill development, positive individuals in a community, in a climate focused on learning. Uh, then developmental model of sports participation includes 3 age ranges: sampling years, age 6 to 13, that emphasize on play and other activities. Then specializing years, age 13 to 15, with focus on participation and effort in a few sports, with that include both play and practice. With intended finally, the investment years, age 15 to 20, with intended focus to achieve at elite level in sport with considerable effort and participation. Chapter 16 is group dynamics, which to summarize, groups are heavily utilized in sports and exercise, involve particular aspects necessary in understanding groups, and group performance is an integral goal for most sports groups. And they'll review concepts, group dynamic models, and concepts, including their characteristics. Then leadership in sports psychology, cohesion in sports and exercise groups, and applying group dynamics through team building. Group dynamic concept and models. Most sport teams, exercise group, and physical activity groups fit into the group dynamic exercise groups, like as a whole. And group models are the conceptualized framework of group dynamics, which is better defined through its characteristics, which the group characteristics is or are common fate, interpersonal attraction and mutual benefit, social structure, interdependent, common identity, and self-categorization, which all have their importance and definitions, which later leads to norms and group norms and roles, integral parts of which are integral parts of group dynamics. Roles are unstated standards of behavior between group members, and norms, receiving more attention than roles, are behaviors expected from certain roles a group member has. Apology. Group performance includes the Steiner model of individual group performance. Tests for the actual productivity of group performance, which leads to how groups have potential coordination and motivational losses in group performance. Also proves that a team can never fully perform at 100% due to various factors, such as I mentioned. And the Ringelmann effect, the tendency for individual group members of a group to become increasingly less productive as the size of their group increases, which leads to social loafing and other social incentives for their groups. Leadership in sports and physical activity includes leadership from different roles on a team, different characteristics of leadership, and approaches to understanding leadership. Meditational model of leadership, it considers relationships among situational, individual, cognitive and behavioral variables. Um, Shell's multidimensional model of leadership includes group satisfaction, or sorry, group satisfaction is greater when the leader's behaviors meet the expectations of the preferences of their group or of the group. In, in transformational leadership, there are four major components: idealized influence, leaders as role models; inspirational motivation, where leaders provide inspiration to others; and intellectual stimulation, where leaders are part of the decision making process; and individualized consideration, where leaders attend to each member's needs and contributions or attributes. Peer leadership within groups has memorable research in athlete and peer relationships. Athletes affect each other in unique avenues, such as in Frazen and colleagues in 2014, who described four different leadership roles for athletes. As mentioned there. Sorry. Uh, in sports and exercise, cohesion is when individuals in a group align personal goals with a shared group goal. Four dimensions of cohesion include group integrated task, or the measure of how united the group is around task objectives. Then group integration social, GIS, which is the same measure of a group but through social objectives. Then individual attractions to the group task, which group member perceptions on their personal involvement in group tasks; and individual attractions to group social, ATGS, group members' perceptions on their personal involvement in group objectives. Correlates of cohesion includes role clarity, clarity of one's role in a group, role acceptance, and role performance. The cohesion performance relationship is positive, with greater cohesion leading to greater performance. Cohesion and adherence, pretty much cohesion facilitates exercise adherence, or cohesion is like how teammates stick together for a common goal, and adherence is the individual's ability to stick to their own individualized goal for um, high performance of the group or their contribution. Um, Team building is described as team enhancement in both social and task purposes. Team building models stems from the cohesion model by improving team processes to enhance team effectiveness. There are other factors such as the group environment, group structure, and group processes. These factors later intervene in team formation by influencing distinctiveness, individual positions, group norms, individual sacrifices, and interaction and communication. Thank you for listening, and here are my citations.